See, it's Wii games on Nintendo Switch. I'm a bastard. That's the topic I want to discuss today. Wii games that appear on Nintendo Switch. Wii games you can play on Nintendo Switch, and I'm not lying here because Super Mario All-Stars is on Super Nintendo, Nintendo Switch Online. And yeah, this is the exact same game that released on a Wii disc back in 2010. There are no lies coming out of my mouth, so that's one off the list already. A list of many, because, you know, I kind of went through the general list of all Wii games that I could really find, or notable Wii games, if that, that have made their way over to Nintendo Switch, and it is a fair amount, and for good reason. The Nintendo Switch definitely has, like, most of the qualities you'd need to re-release Wii games. I mean, the Joy-Con controllers are pretty much like modern Wii remotes. They're not as good as Wii remotes, but they are modern Wii remotes. Like, I remember seeing that first Nintendo Switch trailer, that guy taking the Joy-Con off and holding them separately while playing Skyrim. You know, the way he was holding it kind of made it seem like, oh wow, are these your Wii remote replacements? Can we do Wii remote like motion control with these? Because they didn't show any motion control being used in that initial Nintendo Switch trailer. Probably because they really wanted to distance this from the Wii. And for the first couple years of the Nintendo Switch's life, they definitely did that. There wasn't a ton that was overly Wii-like in the first few years of the Nintendo Switch. But now, oh baby, we're back to waggling my ass off because the Nintendo Switch has so many Wii re-releases and remakes. Probably the most notable we got here is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. And when this was initially revealed, I mean, like, technically it was teased first. I believe Eiji Aonuma at some Zelda concert went up on stage and randomly was like, hey, do you guys want Skyward Sword HD? And the crowd, like, confusingly went, okay. And then that was pretty much it for like a year. And then they announced Skyward Sword HD. And the Wii original definitely gets a lot of flack, but I do think the HD re-release, while it wasn't an exciting re-release, it was a very necessary one. I think this re-release was incredibly necessary to ensure Skyward Sword had, like, a future in front of it. You know, it's not just gonna get stuck on a Wii Remote motion control dependent console. Okay, if you're gonna be here, you gotta move. Okay? You gotta move. As you can see here, we have a little friend that prefers the Wii original, but I think Skyward Sword HD is the definitive version of Skyward Sword. Shocker. Just the fact that it added button control options makes this like, hey, I mean, just having the option is a lifesaver. This game is designed entirely around motion control. However, just the fact that now you don't have to play with motion control, it's a lifesaver for this game because, you know, hey, some people just can't play with motion control. They might not be able to swing their arms around like that. They may not be able to swing them as the game wants them to. And I think having button control definitely allows this game to have a very bright future in front of it. See, he's changed his opinion. I mean, imagine if you have a system that doesn't have any motion control or doesn't have motion control in the sense of like Wii Remote-like controllers. You can still play Skyward Sword on it now. You know, that's an important thing. You know, reformatting this game to work without needing to wave your arms around. That is an incredibly big plus in the Nintendo Switch's favor. However, the motion control in this version, it's always way more finicky on Nintendo Switch, in my opinion. Motion control in Nintendo Switch games, just, it never sits as right with me as it does back on the original Wii. I find that I have to recalibrate like every 10 minutes in this game, if that, I mean like 5 minutes maybe. Everything's just a lot more finicky, it's just not as fluid. The Joy-Con themselves just aren't as substantial feeling as the original Wii remotes. And on top of that, I mean, like, this game, like I said originally, was not the most impressive remaster when it was first announced. Hell, I'd say it still isn't much of an impressive remaster. Well, you still prefer this version, good for you. Cost $60 by itself. They also had Zelda Skyward Sword Joy-Con that they released for $80. And this bundle, when the game was brand new, was like $70. You got a whole ass controller, a soundtrack CD, and a new ass game. God, you love bad deals, don't you? I mean, that's just how Nintendo rolls, you know? Like, they're gonna really re-release a Zelda game at $60. That's just how they roll these days. So, you know, it's just, it is what it is. If you want to support it, go ahead and support it. If you don't want to support it, you can just buy the original or commit armed robbery. I'm not in charge of you, but the judicial system is. So this is definitely a very overpriced and underwhelming remaster. It doesn't add any new content, nothing crazy. It's pretty much just Skyward Sword, just upscaled to 1080p. However, this version just having the option for button control and being in 1080p, and on top of that, upgrading the frame rate to 60 frames per second, and you get full camera control in this version. You never had that in the original. Like, it just makes the overall experience so much better. And I think this version definitely does help showcase, like, why Skyward Sword is designed the way it is. People really did not like this game because of how linear it was. You can tell, like, how it's designed. Like, it feels like you're walking down hallways half the time, even in these large open areas. It's very linear, just kind of a straight shot. But it's designed that way because, you know, I kind of realized, like, oh, now I have full camera control. The original didn't. So I feel like they kind of designed it around the limitations of the Wii Remote. You know, the fact that it's just like, oh, let's focus on motion control combat. Let's just go forward and make, you know, the motion control combat and using the sword, the puzzles in the game. And like, it all just kind of started to make a lot more sense to me. This wasn't the future of Zelda. Rather, this was a very cool, different take on what a Zelda game could be. And I think Skyward Sword HD really helped me appreciate what Skyward Sword was and is. And because of that, this is simultaneously like one of the most important remasters in the Zelda franchise, but also one of the most like underwhelming, the least interesting. You look at something like Wind Waker and the HD version, it's so striking. But then if you look at that and you look at the original, it's not as big of a difference as you may originally think. In fact, I would say in some cases, I vastly prefer how the original looks. I still think Wind Waker HD looks great, but, you know, that was kind of a case of, I looked at Wind Waker HD and I thought, oh my God, this is such an upgrade. But then you look at the original, play the original on GameCube. Like, in many ways, that version does look a little better. But the additions they made with the Wii U gamepad and everything, like, it made that easily the definitive edition. Twilight Princess HD was a bit underwhelming at first, for sure. I was expecting to be wowed by how that remaster looked, much like how I was with Wind Waker HD. But, of course, I realized how little they actually did to Wind Waker HD, and Twilight Princess HD still had that old-school GameCube geometry. And, you know, with that art style, it's harder for it to upgrade, so I was definitely underwhelmed by it at first, but now when I look at it, I'm like, wow, they actually went in and did so much to this game, and they also added a fair amount to it. They added the Cave of Shadows with the amiibo and everything, Miiverse support, all this extra junk. It was very impressive. And Skyward Sword HD, pretty much just Skyward Sword with better control options, and you know, it's just upgraded like resolution and frame rate. You have camera control. That's it, but like that is pretty massive. You know, imagine having camera control in a game that never had camera control before. That's a big ass deal. So yeah, in some ways, the Wii version is still a little better because the motion control I find to be less finicky on this one. However, you know, obviously easily the definitive way to play the game. And also it's portable now because you don't have to worry about the motion control too. It's amazing. But enough about underwhelming Wii remasters on Nintendo Switch. Let's talk about, son of a bitch. Yes, within Mario 3D All-Stars, we have Super Mario Galaxy on Nintendo Switch. This was definitely one of the coolest things for me, just to be able to play like my favorite game of all time. This was like the game that left the biggest impression on me back when I was 11 or however old I was when I tried out Mario Galaxy for the first time. You know, I could play this in the palm of my hands. This was incredible. This sucks in handheld mode. I don't know who decided to make it so then to use the pointer in the game, you have to use the touchscreen. It's not that I don't like that person, I just don't get them. They baffle me because very easily you could have done something like map like the star pointer to like the right analog stick, you know? I mean, like, it still would have been a little lame, but it's still much better. And like, yeah, you can have the touchscreen as an option, but no, you have to use the touchscreen in handheld mode for any pointer-based activity in Mario Galaxy. it's not unplayable, but at that point, I'm just kind of like, it makes me not want to play in handheld mode. It's not fun. It's really lame. But then in TV mode, it's not much better, but it's still better because, you can play with 2 Joy-Cons separated and you get a pretty similar experience to standard-ass Mario Galaxy. You also have the option of hitting Y to spin rather than shaking the one of the Joy-Con, which is a nice bonus, the fact that you don't have to use pretty worthless waggling, all things considered. You don't have to do that. You can just hit a button. But, it is kind of ingrained in my brain to just shake my hand whenever I want to spin in Mario Galaxy. So I don't mind spinning. If I'm using a Pro Controller, yes, I mind spinning that. So thankfully, yeah, if you're using a Pro Controller, hitting a button is a much better solution for that. And the game looks fantastic. Though they obviously didn't do much, like every game in Mario 3D All-Stars is kind of just like a resolution bump, and that's pretty much it. Just kind of like a cleaned up version. It is pretty much just like the original Mario Galaxy, but in 1080p, and not much else done to it. It's not like a Skyward Sword or Twilight Princess remaster. And even then, Skyward Sword doesn't even look like they redid much, but I'm sure, I believe they did redo quite a bit for that game. But Mario Galaxy, I mean, they didn't do much, but they didn't really have to, especially for a collection like this. The entire point of a collection like this isn't necessarily like, oh, all the games are completely redone. I mean, the original Mario All-Stars was like that, but, I mean, times have changed. Nintendo doesn't give a shit anymore. Woo. But Mario Galaxy really doesn't need it with its art direction and lighting and visual effects and everything. It looks phenomenal. At some points, I'd say Mario Galaxy and Mario 3D All-Stars looks better than Mario Odyssey. At some points. I'm not saying across the board, but, like, at some points, like, hot damn. This one's a tricky one for me because, it is Mario Galaxy on Switch. It's fantastic. But at the same time, they didn't really do much to it. And there's no Galaxy 2. Though Galaxy 2, I think would be kind of tricky on Switch considering how much more extensively the pointer is used in that game, specifically for like Yoshi and whatnot. The pointer is used for like much more like quick reflexes and stuff. And with the slow-ass gyroscope on the Joy-Con, oh god. And like, having to use the touchscreen for that, I mean, that feels like it's more prime for like a full-blown remaster. I think it would be awesome to see Galaxy and Galaxy 2 get like a double pack where it's like a very refined remaster. Because I'm sure you can do it. I'm kind of imagining something like how Pikmin 4 has like, you use the gyroscope, but it does lock on to certain things. And I think that would be a much better way of going about it. The problem is that would just take a bit more extra work. So if they did kind of like a Galaxy 1+2 like deluxe package where, it's more than this remaster version of Galaxy 1, it's Galaxy 2 and bada bing, bada boom. I'll be awesome. But as it stands, this is a fine way to play Galaxy. I mean, Galaxy and 3D All-Stars is pretty much, it is a way to play Galaxy on Switch, and it does a decent job at that. And it does show that most of the Wii's functions can be replicated on Switch, but not as well in many cases. Like I say, like using the Joy-Con to move the pointer around, it works, but it just goes off-center way too much for this to be like, wow, I love this. But I want to take a break from Nintendo for a bit and talk about this pile of junk. Sonic Colors Ultimate. Yeah, I mean, it is Sonic Colors. They did it. I'm happy this got a re-release, mainly because like it was stuck on Wii for the longest time. Even something like Sonic Lost World, which was Nintendo exclusive, at least that got a PC port, and this is a far better game than Lost World. So I am very happy that this actually got a full-blown re-release. And they did more to it than they really had to. It is called Sonic Colors Ultimate for a reason. But I wish it was called Sonic Colors Ultimate for more than the reasons it is called that. I mean, we've all seen the videos and the reviews and all of that. This is kind of a sloppy remaster of Sonic Colors. It works, it functions, you know, you get the full Sonic Colors experience. But it is very cobbled together. All of the additions feel just completely phoned in. You have these races against Metal Sonic, and they're like the most just phoned in thing imaginable. You have all these extra skins for Sonic, and it just all felt like this weird quota that all these Sega games have to have. These stupid ass elements to them where it's like, oh, if you get the digital deluxe, you get the blue Sonic shoes. Like every single one of them has it. Sonic Origins had that. Sonic Origins, it's fucking re-releases of Sonic 2. They had to jam a bunch of that stuff in here. They had like a lot of bad technical problems around launch. Still not technically the greatest thing out there. Like the Nintendo Switch version had abhorrent loading times, way worse than the Wii original. I don't know if it's still like that. I do know this game has been patched quite a bit, you know, a couple months after launch. But I don't know. The load times were always pretty lame on here. And he has something to say about them, obviously. Thankfully, though, functionally, Sonic Colors made the jump from the Wii very gracefully because this game always supported, like, the Wii Classic controller and GameCube controller. So, you know, it was always built for non-Wii remote controls. So there's nothing really about this that doesn't work on non-Wii consoles. What would have been cool, though, since it's called Sonic Colors Ultimate, is if it also included the DS version. That would have been amazing, because in many ways, the DS version is better than the Wii game. But yeah, in my opinion, this is just, this is another way to play Sonic Colors. You know, I mean, like, technically, you could consider it definitive if you want. I don't really care. It's something where, like, if you play this version and you play the Wii version, they're so similar, it really doesn't matter. I think, like, you're splitting hairs at that point because, like, whatever. These are both, like, 2-3 hour experiences. Just try out both and just be like, all right, which one do you want to play for the next 2 hours? There you go. That's your answer. It doesn't matter. But if you play this version, it's perfectly fine. You played Sonic Colors. I'm not a huge fan of Sonic Colors. I think it's okay. And I think it got so much acclaim because it came out at the perfect time where, like, people were just wanting, like, a good quality, no nonsense 3D Sonic game. And this gave you that experience. But even calling it a 3D Sonic game, there's so many 2D segments in this game, and they're not good. They're not fun. The 2D segments in this game blow. And in my opinion, Sonic Colors and Sonic Forces have way more in common than some people act like they do. Sonic Colors is still a better game. Yeah, they're both very similar experiences. But yeah, some people would say Sonic Colors got butchered. Going from Wii to Nintendo Switch and other consoles. I wouldn't go that far. It's just that this port definitely had some problems, but it's still Sonic Colors at the end of the day. It's not like you're not getting the Sonic Colors experience on Switch. And speaking of Sega games on Nintendo Switch from the Wii, I'm not a fan of this game, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. What a silly ass game this is. So this is like almost like a full-blown remake of Banana Blitz from the Wii because, like, they had to change a lot of stuff. They removed a bunch of mini games. They had to redo a lot, like the music. There's a new character. You can play as Sonic in the game. You know, calling it a remake may be going very far, but yeah, like they definitely did a lot to this game. There's no more motion controls. There's not even the option for motion controls. This almost feels like it's just it's here because Sega just wanted to try putting out a new Super Monkey Ball game. That's it. And Banana Blitz was like one of the most popular, if not the most popular, Monkey Ball game sales-wise. Now, of course, that's what a lot of people say, like, oh, they chose to remaster this because it sold the best. But I also feel like it's because, like, it was probably the easiest to remaster. You look at the original Wii game, and, like, all you really got to do is spruce that one up a bit. You look at the original GameCube games, and, like, you see what they did 2 years later with Banana Mania. They just flat out remade all of those things from scratch pretty much. Banana Blitz HD just kind of feels more like this was the easiest option all around. It's the most popular. It also would be the easiest to just take and upgrade. Yeah, sure, let's just go with that one. But this is just such a nothing Monkey Ball game. It's fine. It'll give you a Monkey Ball experience, but not in the best way. Like, it's way too simple. It's way too brain dead. Banana Mania has its problems, but that is Monkey Ball. You know, that is Monkey Ball, and I commend them for that. Banana Blitz HD, You know, they did their best, I think, to rectify a couple of its problems, but like I don't know if it was like in the right ways. Like, yeah, a lot of people didn't like the motion control in Banana Blitz, but like the game was designed around it. Hence why the levels are so simple in this game, because they're designed around motion control. So you take away the motion control, yeah, that seems like it's a plus, but then like it makes the game even more brain dead. So yeah, like I just say this is just kind of there, you know? I don't hate it. I don't hate Banana Blitz like many other people do. But yeah, it's just kind of what the fuck ever. And speaking of what the fuck, Go Vacation. What a strange remaster on the Switch. So this was like a 2011 Wii game by Namco, and this was actually a follow-up to Wii Ski and Snowboard. So this was kind of like the all-in-one experience. You got all these sports right here, and yeah, this was kind of like Namco's weird little answer to Wii Sports Resort, but it was definitely a lot more of like a I don't know how to describe it. It's like a minigame collection, but with a bit of like an overworld to it. You know, you walked around, you went to the sports, and you competed in the sports. You could play it as like a basic Wii Sports Resort minigame collection, but you could also like walk around and do some activities. You know, like it's a quality Wii Sports Resort knockoff. And the Switch version is kind of like, they add a bunch of stuff. They also take some stuff away. You can play with just a standard Pro controller, like just flat out button controls. It makes this game fucking miserable. It's a quality little minigame collection, but like these kind of games just feel off in like HD on the Switch compared to the original Wii. Like there's something about these games on the Wii with its lower quality visuals and using the Wii Remote, using the nunchuck, all of that stuff. It just feels a lot more substantial on Wii. There's something about like these kind of games that feel like they have more of a soul on Wii compared to on the Switch. These games just feel weird as hell in HD. This is primarily like still Go Vacation, but you know, bringing it over to the Switch, I feel like it was kind of like them trying to fill the void of the Wii series, because we hadn't had the Wii series on the Switch at that point. We hadn't had many casual experiences. And you can tell this was trying to fill a void because Nintendo published it themselves. Yeah, that's really interesting. You can't use your Mii in this game, so I think it was kind of like a, hey, here's your Wii Sports Resort game from Namco. Oh my god, it's Joy-Con wheel compatible? Well, son of a bitch, this is the definitive version. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Yeah, this was very necessary. This game never had a chance, man. I mean, like, you put it out on the Wii, it had a hell of a time coming out to North America, and it finally did, and it was GameStop exclusive, and they barely printed any copies. So then you move over to the 3DS generation, where they did a 3D remake of Xenoblade Chronicles, and it was new 3DS exclusive. Damn it. Yeah, nobody owned a new 3DS, especially at the time that this Xenoblade Chronicles 3D remake came out on it. No thanks. So Xenoblade Chronicles actually being released on a console that everybody owned at the time, and in a state where it doesn't feel like it's about to fucking crack open due to stress. My lord. Like, this game has incredible art design, but it looks just blurry and crusty and grimy as hell because of the consoles it was always on. The Wii could not handle Xenoblade Chronicles. The new 3DS could barely handle Xenoblade Chronicles. The Nintendo Switch? This version actually looks pretty damn good. Definitely the definitive version of Xenoblade Chronicles. Though, is it though? Because it is missing the amiibo support and the music player from the 3DS remake. It doesn't matter because this is genuinely the definitive version of Xenoblade Chronicles. It's not my cup of tea right now. However, I can't really think of many other Wii games that deserve this nearly as much as Xenoblade did. Yep, still can't think of any. This is a phenomenal re-release. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is fantastic. I still hold the opinion that I don't know how much it actually deserved a remake on Switch, because this is pretty much like a full-on remake. They didn't have to go as hard with this as they did because like it has like this completely new art style. The backgrounds, the foregrounds, everything is like completely redone in this game. It's so impressive, but the original still looks really good today. All you really had to do was like a Skyward Sword HD style upgrade where it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, you just increase the resolution and it's gonna look fine. It's gonna look modern. No, they went above and beyond. They added so much content to this with Merry Magoland. They have new copy abilities. They have a whole ass epilogue. It's genuinely insane how much they added to this. I will say, I probably would have preferred something like Kirby's Epic Yarn, mainly because, like, I'm not the biggest Kirby Star Allies fan, so I am happy we got this because, you know, we have a good traditional 2D Kirby game on Switch. Good for us. But, you know, they are very similar overall, you know, like I kind of get my 2D Kirby fix from that game, you know, begrudgingly, but still. Return to Dreamland is a very basic 2D Kirby game, which is understandable because it was kind of the first of the modern 2D Kirby style. And Star Allies is also a pretty basic 2D Kirby game. So we have two pretty basic 2D Kirbys on Switch. Though this one is still much better. But because of that, you know, I think Epic Yarn would have been really cool to see. Or, like, something like one of the Kirbys on DS or GBA, like maybe, you know, like Nightmare in Dreamland, even though, you know, that's a remake in of itself. You know, imagine that with, like, modern 2D Kirby visuals. That would be pretty cool. Or, like, you know, Amazing Mirror, Squeak Squad, Superstar Ultra, again, I know that's a remake, but still. Just any of the other 2D Kirbys, kind of put that in the 2.5D style that Return to Dreamland established. That would have been pretty damn sweet. But this is also pretty damn sweet. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. And I don't know why I'm trying to be like, oh, they could have done other games instead of this one, because I genuinely think this game is phenomenal. Like, they turned a pretty ho-hum Kirby experience for me into a fantastic one. I think this is a great game, an amazing remake of a game that didn't need it. It didn't need a fantastic remake, but they still went above and beyond. That is insane. What's really interesting here is that this was called like Kirby Wii in Japan, and it was still called that in Japan. And this uses like the whole Japanese box art too. But Europe, it was originally called like Kirby Adventure Wii, and you know, they changed it to Kirby's Return to Dreamland over there, but Japan retained the Kirby Wii title. So, you know, that's fucking confusing. And now we're going on the rapid fire section because there's so many other games that came out on Wii that are also on Switch, but you know, they're kind of like little like whatever things. So we have A Boy and His Blob right here. This was like a Wii reimagining of the original NES game by Way Forward. This was originally like a boxed Wii release, and yeah, it's also on Nintendo Switch now. And then there's also Da Blob 1 and 2. Those were huge on Wii. Well, not huge, but they were just like kind of well-known Wii games. If you subscribe to stuff like Nintendo Power back in like 2008, you remember stuff like Da Blob and Da Blob 2 and just random junk like that where it's like, you know, like it was just like, oh, here's a third-party exclusive Wii game that is, you know, kind of interesting. It's kind of worth a damn. There we go. Cool stuff. But yeah, Da Blob and Da Blob 2 have Nintendo Switch releases alongside Mega Man 9 and 10 from WiiWare. You can get those via the Mega Man Legacy collections, and those have all the DLC, and they look a lot better. I've tried playing like Mega Man 9 and 10 on like Xbox Live Arcade, and they look blurry, man. Like they're not crisp at all. When you play them via the Legacy collections, they look really nice. We also have the entire Bit Trip series, which was like a WiiWare legend. The main one that I have experience with is Bit Trip Runner. I remember just kind of plowing on this on Nintendo Switch for a little bit. I remember this came out on like Christmas Day a couple years back. And yeah, I mean, like it's kind of it's kind of hard to mess these games up on something other than the Wii. But you know what is easy to mess up? It's World of Goo, another WiiWare legend. And on Nintendo Switch, it functions fine. In fact, you know, you can use the touchscreen in handheld mode, which works pretty well for the game. But that was an earlier Switch port where, you know, they used the Joy-Con's gyroscope to mimic the Wii Remote pointer. That was kind of the earliest example of showing how this can work. And it also showed a lot of the flaws, but it does work. It's just not ideal. And this one is just kind of silly. It's Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Yeah, so this was originally released for like all the major like 7th gen platforms. You know, yeah, the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii. And of course the Wii version, like many times, you'd get kind of like a slightly different version, like a version made specifically for the Wii, and sometimes the PS2 as well. And yep, that's what we got on Nintendo Switch. We just got an HD remaster, or just port, of the Wii version, which is weird because there's already, like, you could have ported the HD version to the Nintendo Switch. That would have been kind of cool. To be fair, I do really like to see kind of weirdo versions of these games re-released, but I feel like this is an example where it would have made a lot more sense, or it just would have been like very nice to have both versions available in one. You know, you can choose between the Xbox 360 version or the Wii version. Instead, what we got here is the Wii version in HD, which kind of feels like there's no way that the original HD version is gonna come over. Feels like, you know, like, I don't know, it's weird. No More Heroes 1 and 2 made the jump, and it was pretty cool because No More Heroes 1, there was some concern whether this would be like the original Wii version, which is more of the fan favorite, or like a re-release of the PS3 version, No More Heroes, Heroes Paradise. No, it was the Wii version, remastered in HD, alongside No More Heroes 2, and those came over, which was great. You know, you got full-on button control, or you could use your Joy-Con, which was great. And then we go into the technicalities. So we got Pikmin 1 here, Pikmin 2 as well. Yeah, so these have Nintendo Switch re-releases. You know, Nintendo announced these ports and shadow dropped them during a June Nintendo Direct. And yeah, these are solid versions of Pikmin 1 and 2. I do miss the Wii remote controls, because these ones have like an interesting solution where, you know, you can aim with the gyroscope, but only when, you know, you're holding, you know, the throwing button. Which is interesting. I'm not sure if I prefer that or not. It's just a different take on it, which I think is, you know, it's fine. It does the job. I think you get so used to the Wii remote controls sometimes that you forget that the original GameCube controls work perfectly fine. Like, they work more than fine enough. So these versions are pretty solid. There's like this interesting thing where, you know, these are in widescreen, much like the Wii re-releases. It does feel like certain elements are stretched, you know, like they don't feel as like natural as they could. But, you know, regardless, it's Pikmin on the go. I've been playing this in bed. I love Pikmin 1 to death. And yeah, this is just a solid-ass version of Pikmin 1, Pikmin 2 as well. Though they removed the product placement in the game. No more Duracell batteries. I'd say I'm about to fucking lose it, but I already did when I found that out. We also have Metroid Prime Remastered, which, you know, hey, Metroid Prime was re-released on the Wii. Standalone in Japan, you know, you had just singular Metroid Prime re-released on Wii. Over here in North America, though, we got it bundled as a part of the Metroid Prime trilogy. However, you know, we got Metroid Prime Remastered, and it is one of the greatest remasters of all time. We have other re-releases like Resident Evil 1, 0, 4. Those were all re-released on Wii at some point, so, you know, we got versions of those on Switch. Okami HD, which, you know, wasn't originally a Wii game, but it was on Wii, and it's probably, that's probably where most people recognize the game, was the Wii version, and that got an HD remake, which came to Xbox One and PS4, and then Switch later down the line, so that's a bit of a funky case, but yeah, it is technically a Wii game on Nintendo Switch. And of course, the Just Dance games. You have all these Just Dance games that released on Wii, Wii U, Nintendo Switch. Hell, Just Dance 2020 only released on Wii and Nintendo Switch. I am so proud of them to be able to do something that fucking weird. And then there's like the weird ones that are like, okay, these are sort of Wii games on Nintendo Switch. So you have like Nintendo Switch Sports, that mostly includes sports from Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. But that's mostly like its own new game, so whatever. And then you have Clubhouse Games, 51 Worldwide Classics, which includes a lot of like things from Wii Play and Wii Sports, sort of like inspired by them, but still not the same. Like Shooting Gallery in that game is obviously inspired by Wii Play, but it's like, whatever. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series, you know, Klonoa 1 was a Wii game. even though like that remake was different from the remake/remaster included in Fantasy Reverie series. But for the most part, it's still, you know, the same kind of game. So, you know, that's sort of there. Carnival games. There's Carnival games on Switch. It's a different ass game, but you know, I mean, you have Carnival games on Wii, Carnival games on Switch. Can't have one without the other. Ghostbusters, the video game. That's kind of the opposite of the Star Wars Force Unleashed deal, where Ghostbusters, the video game, released on Wii, but they had these cartoony-ass visuals, and then you had the HD versions on Xbox 360, and the remaster version of that game came to Nintendo Switch, so, sorta. But then we have Pac-Man Museum Plus, including a couple random-ass minigames that were in Namco Museum Remix on Wii, and Active Life Outdoor Challenge. I don't know, let's just get this over with. The amount of Wii games available on Nintendo Switch, it makes me really happy, you know, and the future seems very bright for more Wii games to get HD re-releases, because thankfully, the Nintendo Switch initiated a future for Nintendo where, you know, we could have both standard controlling games and games that use that Wii Remote style control without, like, forcing one or the other. The Joy-Con, for as many problems as they have, I think are designed incredibly smartly, because you can use them as standard controllers or as Wii Remote replacements. They're really versatile that way, and it does show that, like, hey, Nintendo really thought this through. Back during the Nintendo Switch presentation in 2017, like, Nintendo highlighted how the Switch kind of includes all the stuff from their previous consoles, or the core concepts, which kind of makes it like a perfect way to, you know, relive all of those generations. You know, they may not have certain elements, but, you know, the gyroscope can at least kind of generally mimic what the sensor bar can do. Not all the buttons from the Wii Remote are in the exact place on the Joy-Con, but, you know, enough is there, and it does the job. And you have all the other elements, like the portability of the GameCube with the handle and all that. Well, that's here with the Nintendo Switch as a whole. You get two controllers like you did with the NES and SNES back in the day. No microphone from the DS. What's the point anymore? But it has made the Nintendo Switch like this perfect remake haven for all of these old school classics. Games that make perfect sense for the platform because, you know, how versatile the control methods are. You couldn't really get the same types of Wii remakes on other consoles, which is great because, hey, these games deserve to be re-released and re-experienced for generations to come. And thankfully, we can do that on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, thankfully my ass.